This podcast is part of the Blueberry Network, where listeners and podcasters come together. Find out more at blueberrywithnoease.com.
The Eat Sleep Right podcast is brought to you by generous grant from the Built on Dreams Media Network, with additional funding by the Sims Media Foundation, and from the generosity of listeners like you.
Stand by, please. Rolling on 6. On 6.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 55 of the Eat Sleep Right podcast. I'm your host, Adam Scull. The podcast is available at eatsleepright.net and available at the iTunes store, where you can also subscribe to it. The Eat Sleep Right podcast is also enjoyable at the Public Radio Exchange at prx.org. Regular listeners know my purpose is to find out how writers become authors, how they got where they are, how they do what they do, and how they go from a blank piece of paper to a finished manuscript. If you've enjoyed the Eat Sleep Right podcast or had your own success in writing, I'd like to hear from you. Tell me about yourself and your story, and I may get back to you and have you as a guest on the Eat Sleep Right podcast. If you have any questions or comments, anything at all, please write me. The email address is comments@eatsleepright.net. Trains by Elena Lazares, Portugal. Some days I am overwhelmed by the amount of thoughts and ideas circling through my mind. I reach in to grab one so I can mull it over, feel it, turn it inside out, and get to know it. But another always attaches itself to the end and forms a train. I open up the drawers to my card catalog file I keep in my brain and begin to dismantle the train and stick everything into its proper drawer. This is tricky and cautious work. The opening of a drawer to place something inside is often an invitation for something else to pop out. Much like the Sorcerer's Apprentice, the more thoughts and ideas I try to file away, an exponential amount slips out and begins dancing around, distracting me from my initial train. The ideas are vibrant, colorful, and fraught with emotion. I well up, I surge, I resonate with each one, and my fingers begin to fly across the keyboard. My brain has been caught by a particularly vital idea, and a burst of visceral, concise description bursts forth and demands it right in front of the page before me. Yet, as my fingers fly and the words flow, the idea leaks its enthusiasm, making room for another bounding thought to catch my attention. Completely unrelated to the first, it too demands its right to be heard, and the pattern continues until my page is filled with drops of leaking colors, ideas never fulfilled, a train loaded down with cars of thoughts, whirling through my head without a track in sight. I grab my pencil and notebook and open the door to one car. I draw flowcharts, graphic organizers, circles, bubbles, filled with words, ideas, a train of thought, building, exploring, and creating until the idea has run its course. I grab a new notebook and begin again with each car, each thought, racing through the colors, images, emotions, and trying to capture them, give them voice, until I find one that becomes my runaway train. The notebook fills up, the process of writing by hand adding to the richness of ideas, coupling the ideas together without having to stop and worry about the technology of a pencil. The ideas flow, the characters take shape, and the plot twists, and a new train forms. If I'm lucky, I can even begin building the track that might take my train on its way into my reader's mind and heart. Some days I'm overwhelmed by the amounts of thoughts and ideas circling through my mind. Days like these, I buckle up, pour a cup of coffee, and hang on for the ride. I might not make a train, but it will be one hell of a trip. If you're looking for a community that can offer you tools, support, and advice to start your own adventures in writing, be prepared to have the cauldron of your imagination stirred. I started Eat Sleep Right for one purpose: to do everything I can to get your voice heard about your writing and more eyes on your books. My goal is to help you achieve the success you so richly deserve. I salute your success in writing.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Eat Sleep Right podcast, located at eatsleepright.net. Please send any questions, comments or suggestions to comments@eatsleepright.net. Please consider a donation to support the Eat Sleep Right podcast. Donations can be sent to our PayPal address at donations@eatsleepright.net. Once in a lifetime, the theme music for the Eat Sleep Right podcast, courtesy of Stephen Paul, all rights reserved, used by permission. Please join us again for the next edition of the Eat Sleep Right podcast.